All right, good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us this morning for this talk on intelligent interoperability. My name is Mike Cordeiro. I am a Senior Director of Interoperability Product Market Strategy at MEDITECH. So part of my role at MEDITECH is to ensure that our EHR, or to help define the strategy around interoperability data analytics relative to our EHR. I have the pleasure this morning of having my colleague Chris Kundra with me. Chris Kundra is the Director of Interoperability Development at MEDITECH. So Chris's team actually deploys the technology and codes our interface and RESTful API product. Chris and I this morning want to talk to you about intelligent interoperability. Specifically, I hope to frame MEDITECH's strategy, approach, and thought process around interoperability. And then Chris is going to come in and talk to you a little bit more about the technology and how his dev team actually moves forward with deploying some of the tools we enable within the EHR to support our mission. And MEDITECH's mission is to provide or support our health systems by providing an intelligent, open, and interoperable EHR. When we talk about interoperability specifically at MEDITECH, we're not talking about interoperability in the context of supporting a standard like a CSCD to meet a regulatory requirement. When we're talking about interoperability, we're talking about how we're actually utilizing data in intuitive workflows to ensure that data and interoperability methods are improving patient outcomes or care outcomes, empowering patients, helping organizations meet efficiencies, and ultimately helping with the bottom line. So when we went out and we built Expanse and how we continue to evolve Expanse, interoperability is one of those pillars. So we actually look at this as framing or building an infrastructure that's future-proof based on modern technologies that supports the intelligence of our platform, right? And we know that interoperability within itself isn't achieved by a single system or a single health system. So we want to ensure that our platform is embraced with this extensible ecosystem that's extending access to the EHR outside of our individual tools by promoting innovation and by extending access to the data that might live outside of the EHR and bringing that in. So when we look at intelligent interoperability, it's framed using these three pillars. So the infrastructure, our platform, and the ecosystem. When we take a look at the infrastructure itself, the first thing we're looking at is data. And it's important to essentially make sure that your data is not only codified, but normalized across your platform or your infrastructure. So one of the things we do is to ensure that we have the appropriate tools to codify and tag data. We have the appropriate tools to perpetuate or propagate value bases and encoding systems across the entirety of our data structures, right? And so if you think about it, in a specific health system, you could have a data set that's unstructured, and that same data set in a different care venue be structured and codified. So what we did with Expanse is to ensure that all of our workflows were streamlined. The manner we collected data was synonymous across the entire platform. So in addition to ensuring that our data sets are codified and normalized, we want to make sure that those data sets are also stored, or our data is stored in a manner that promotes interoperability, that's efficient, right? So we're using industry standards like JSON and SQL that are optimized for data sharing, not just data sharing with apps, but maybe extending access to data sets for AI models or machine learning. So the data is optimized for interoperability. In addition to ensuring that our data is codified and our data structures are optimized, we're leveraging the cloud, and we're leveraging the tools within the cloud to ensure that our platform is easily deployed and scalable. We use cloud functions to make sure that we're able to extend access and deploy apps within Fire servers at scale. And we're actually using cloud database management tools to extend access to data sets, like I said, to ML and other AI type use cases. So, using the data structures and then the cloud tools ensure that Expanse is mobile native. So we're easily able to extend access to the EHR to health apps. Those are health apps that support the patient. Those are health apps that augment the physician experience. And we're not just talking about extending access to apps that are running on mobile phones, but we're also deploying interoperability tools like Smart on Fire or CDS hooks. And we know that not all data is resident in a health system or a single EHR, for that matter. So we ensure that our infrastructure is able to easily tap into national networks to gain access to the data that exists outside of that health system, right? And this is more prevalent today in time because as we move forward with Healthcare and HIMSS, there's actually a national framework for data sharing, right? And when I'm talking about data sharing, I'm not solely talking about pulling in an XML or a CCD. I'm actually talking about sharing that discrete data across the network for pointed data exchange and not like cumbersome process. So ultimately, when we look at the infrastructure that supports Expanse, it's forward-looking, it's modern, it's based on modern technologies, and it ultimately will grow as our needs to continue to innovate grow. So I'm going to turn it over to Chris, who's going to talk a little bit about our approach to how we deploy the infrastructure and the tools we code because of it. So Chris.
Thanks, Mike. Can you hear me? Okay, so thank you. And what I want to do is talk a little bit about what Mike was describing as semantic interoperability and the use of standards and like SQL, FHIR, those sorts of things, JSON. And we are participants in a number of industry work groups, including FHIR accelerators like FAST, DaVinci, Argonaut. We're actually one of the founding members of Argonaut. We spent time working in work groups like Commonwealth Health Alliance, as well as Direct Trust. And all of that is very foundational to what we do. We want to make sure that we're building a foundation of interoperability, like Mike was describing, so we can do intelligent things on top of it. And so we leverage those work groups to help us build out that foundation. An example, we really believe in the use of industry standard APIs and not so much proprietary. Every API that we develop, we really strive to have an industry standard behind it so that we can build out that foundation. And so an example of this is last year we had a client of ours asking us, can we have an API that allows for patient-provider messaging? And we didn't have one. So we looked around, we tried to find one, an industry standard that was out there. We couldn't find anything, but there was a FHIR resource that did it. So we took that FHIR resource and we said, hey, Argonaut Group, we have this use case that we need to satisfy. So we brought that to them and say, we're going to do this. Can we have anybody else interested in doing this with us? And we were able to get some uptake in it. A couple of the other EHR vendors agreed, and they're like, that's a great idea. So we took it and we worked on an implementation guide. We got it developed and implemented. And the best of all, now we have a standard that everybody can use. So again, building out that foundation of interop. Another thing that we try to do is participate in initiatives. So like last year, the White House had an initiative for Sync for Social Needs, as well as this year with Cancer Moonshot. And both of those initiatives are super important, and we're very excited to partake in those initiatives to help drive standards forward and drive our platform for interoperability forward. I would like to talk next a little bit about our cloud infrastructure and how this foundation of interoperability ties into that. So our cloud infrastructure is a piece of Expanse. We have Expanse is an EHR platform that's based on web. You access it from a web browser. It can be installed on-prem. It can be installed in the cloud. It can be installed in the cloud as a MEDITECH managed service that we call MAS. Regardless of how it's installed, it has a cloud infrastructure component which allows us to do a lot of different things. It allows us to, from my perspective, it's super important for interoperability, and allows us to future-proof ourselves. So the reason that we have to do this is because interoperability has changed so much, as everybody knows, in the past decade or 15 years. My first HIMSS was 10 years ago, and the first time the interoperability showcase was here, it was down in Hall F, like at the other side of the whole place. And we came back here. Now it's in the center of the showcase. Things have changed so much, and it's great. Interoperability has changed a ton in 15 years. It used to be like we would exchange CCDs point to point. that evolved into exchanging CCDs with an HIE, small pockets of healthcare organizations exchanging documents. That has further evolved now into exchanging documents through networks like Commonwealth. It's further evolved from there now into TEFCA and QHIMSS, and it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. The documents that are out there now are in the order of hundreds per patient. It's hard to manage those documents. This platform that we're building helps us manage that. It gives us the tools that we need in order to find the data that we need for those patients and to surface the right information to the right providers at the right time. The way that we do this is by taking our data when it's filed in Expanse, whether it be CCDs that we retrieve from a network or data that's filed in the platform itself, push that data to the cloud in a database that we can access and we can do things with. There's a ton of benefits to this. One is that it provides a layer of protection for Expanse itself, right? We don't want something on the outside interoperability related, say the next COVID epidemic or some spike in interoperability activity to have a negative impact on Expanse. So having a cloud infrastructure allows us to have that protection against the unforeseen things that might come in the future. Like I said, interop has changed a ton in the past 15 years. Who knows what it's going to be like in the next 15 years? So we need to make sure that we're providing a layer of protection. It also gives us the ability to provide scalability. We have a spike in activity. It's easy for us to scale up and scale down to handle that spike and not have, or if we have a large language model that we need to move data around for AI or machine learning or whatever it is, to be able to scale up and scale down and move data, transition data, convert data, the cloud gives us that ability. It also gives us a very cost-effective way of doing it. Imagine trying to stand up the hardware that you need in order to give you the foundation to handle those spikes. It's very expensive because you never know what that spike could entail, right? Like how heavy that could be. And so it gives us a very cost-effective way to be able to scale up and scale down and be flexible. The other thing is having the data in the cloud puts us in a position to take advantage of new tools that might come in the next 5 to 10, 20 years, whatever it is. Having that data available, easy to move, and to take advantage of those tools quickly and easily is great for Expanse and it's great for the industry. And then finally, all of the cloud infrastructure really does future-proof Expanse. It puts us in a position where we don't have to worry anymore about bottlenecks, technology bottlenecks as situations arise that need scalability and all that. We have a solution that is immune to any sort of bottleneck, and it gives us a future-proof platform. So I would like to turn it back to Mike to talk more about some of the things we're building on this platform and some of the things we actually have built.
All right, thanks, Chris. So we went through and essentially talked about the foundational component of Expanse being our infrastructure and how that positions and powers our platform. So I want to talk a little bit more about the platform right now. So as a result of that infrastructure, this platform, Expanse, is able to help health systems engage patients, right? So today in time, that's extremely important in that health systems, as you know, are competing for patients amongst themselves. Health systems are competing for patients with large box retailers like Amazon and Walmart, right? So engaging your patients using modern day technology, so the conveniences they expect every day, is an important factor, and it's something you can achieve with Expanse as a result of not only the way we store data, but the way we share data using standards and how we deploy it, right? So you're engaging your patients by giving them access to their data, helping them control their health journey. You're engaging patients by ensuring that the health system can meet them where they want to receive care, right? So you're enabling telehealth. We're promoting or enabling smart clinics. We're able to also support care venues like virtual nursing, all through interoperability methods that are achieved through that infrastructure. In addition to supporting patients, we're empowering care teams. And we're talking about empowering care teams to ensure that they actually have efficiencies as it relates to data they're getting from the outside world. Right. So I'm not talking about producing a CCD that a clinician needs to read a 30-page document to find a salient data point. If you haven't had the opportunity today, I definitely encourage you to go over to the MEDITECH booth 2580, where you can actually take a look at what MEDITECH's doing with Google relative to search and summarize. right? So we're talking about empowering care teams. I'm talking about pushing insights from that CCD or from that health record directly to the clinician without having them read that 30-page document. When we're talking about empowering care teams, we're talking about enabling workflows and enabling tools that help them streamline their day-to-day process. So it's taking that data set and making it available through a cloud function to an AI model, and then consuming back those insights or that data from that model directly in workflow natively.
Right.
In addition to supporting the patients, and in addition to empowering care teams, we're also supporting the health system by helping them achieve efficiencies, right? We're able to extend data access to analytic models and bring in those insights to decision makers at the health system, right? So we make sure that the OR is actually appropriately staffed and maximized. We ensure that the right amount of nurses are staffing labor and delivery at a specific day at a specific time, right? So we're helping health systems achieve those operational efficiencies, and through an interoperability method, we're also streamlining administrative workflows. So we're actually checking prior authorizations, right? We're automating the referral process or in payer and provider interactions. So the platform is powering the intelligence. The infrastructure is powering the intelligence for our platform. And I had mentioned before, it's a 3-pillar approach to us from an interop perspective, because now we need to actually promote the innovation, extend access to the EHR outside of the walls of the health system, outside of Expands proper, and promote innovation through an ecosystem of data sharing. I talked about the technology for a while, as did Chris, and now let's talk about how we're actually promoting that innovation is by giving access to app developers, our customer developers, through our public sandbox called Greenfield Workspace, where they can actually get information about MEDITECH API and interoperability methods. They're able to prototype their apps against an Expanse EHR with a robust synthetic data set, right? In addition to the development efforts and the innovation that can happen as a result of Greenfield, we're also giving our customers and healthcare organizations choice around, or assurance around, the apps and the products they extend access to through the MEDITECH Alliance program. And if you have questions about that, please obviously go over to the booth, and our business development team can talk about that. But through this process, through this business process, we're ensuring that we have partnerships, we're promoting innovation, we're giving our customers assurance and choice. So when we talk about intelligent interoperability, like I started this talk saying, we're not talking about supporting a transactional interface or a RESTful API for the sake of supporting it. We're looking at how data is driving healthcare, how data is advancing healthcare, and we're actually looking at how an interoperability method and how we use, collect, and share that data is actually going to enhance the overall patient experience by giving them access to that data using an app of their choosing, allowing them to take control by scheduling their own patient visit, right? We're decreasing the clinician burden through the work we're doing with Google, the work we're doing internally, streamlining our workflows, and make sure we're getting the right data at the right time to the right practitioner. We're allowing healthcare systems to improve those efficiencies through analytic models, and ultimately we're empowering the health systems to develop a digital health strategy that's sustainable and extensible. So on behalf of Chris and I want to thank you for joining us this morning. If you have any questions, I have 1 minute to take those. But if you want to go over to booth 2580, we can obviously help answer those there. And we actually have a kiosk here, kiosk 71, that we're able to talk to you also. So thank you.